You know, I really dig that entry song. That was a random find online, and I have enjoyed it ever since. My name is Anthony Krysiewicz, and I have with me the very talented artist, otherwise known as Brian Methe, my podcast friend, and also known as the most interesting person in the music industry with knowledge and expertise in lists that will go on forever, Mr. Brian Methe. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Anthony. How are you tonight?
Doing really well.
Are you ready to go ahead? Are you ready to talk about the Rock Hall?
Oh man, you know, I've been fighting with people over these silly lists.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that it's. There was even a new one that came out this week. It's the list of the greatest rappers of all time. We may have to delve into that one on the next show.
You know,
but
that could open a can of worms because I have a shit ton of comments on that as well.
Yeah,
but you know, I will say this. So we had realistically, our first most successful episode was last year when we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2022. A lot of downloads, a lot of people following. It came across the platforms being pretty successful. Hold on, there was something came through. All right, that's that one. Hold on, I'm still trying to figure out the cues. This one, here we go. All right. We had last year a very successful show with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it opened up a lot of cans of worms because I think that I'm very opinionated on what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be and how it should be utilized. You had a lot of great opinions about things, and that's the whole idea of like this show is that like everyone has an opinion and everyone creates lists. Mm-hmm. And whether you agree with them or not, it's fun to kind of rip them apart, right? Like I think that's what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has become, is just us ripping that shit apart, honestly, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that my wife and I were just talking, and I think that over the next several years, I think there's going to need to be kind of a reckoning with the whole idea of what the Rock Hall is and what it represents and what it's called. And because I think that now that we've got a lot more hip hop and other types of acts that are up to get in and that are getting in. Especially with, you know, hip hop hitting its 50th anniversary, as we saw at the Grammys, and more hip hop artists being eligible and getting in. I think that the whole kind of idea or the concept of the Rock Hall needs to be kind of reimagined and maybe even rebranded to just kind of be a little bit more encompassing of all the different types of musical styles that are out there, and that, you know, that the music has come from. You know, rock and roll didn't just come, you know, wasn't created in a vacuum. There's a lot of places that it came from, and I think we need to keep that in mind as we look at these artists and look at who's, you know, who we're putting in this status.
Well, here's the thing, and I said this last year, and I'm gonna say it again. If this was called the Music Hall of Fame, or the general, I don't know, if this was like any other word besides rock and roll, right? I don't think I'd have so much against it. But it's tough for me as a music lover and someone who really, like, I would say, you know, utilizes the idea of music. Like, music is something every day, and I know that you have the same thing. We listen to music all the time. We're constantly, you know, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't have music playing. Like that I'm not that there's not a conversation about music. It happened tonight. Like I literally was at a bar a little while ago with my wife while my son was at soccer practice, and I was literally talking to the guy about Jack White, and I was talking about the White
Hmm.
Stripes, and I was talking about Illiterate Light, and all these different things, and it's a constant daily day-to-day thing. Music is very important to me, where it might not
Well,
be
it's a
others.
part. It's a huge part of. I think it's a huge part of life in general. I mean, in a lot of people's lives, and these artists and this music, they become really important to us as people. I mean, it becomes the soundtrack of our lives. You know, you hear a song and it immediately can transport you back in time to experience you had and people you knew and things like that. So I think for a lot of people like us, music's a super important part of your life, and it really is kind of a touchstone to different times of your life and different experiences and people that you've known. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like it transports you anywhere.
yeah, and I think it's tough too because as people, I think you and me, we've talked about this in so many shows. I think we get very defensive of how things are classified in music, right? Whether
Mhm.
it is how people look at something a certain way or how people judge a certain way, we get attached to music, whether it's just a song or a band or in general, because there is us, our parts of our lives are attached to that and how
Mhm.
it's being seen and perceived. So when people are utilizing that or putting it in a game, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has become a game. How there you can get in or can't get in, and how it's going to be utilized or justified, it becomes silly.
Absolutely. I think that there aren't. I think kind of what you're getting at is there aren't like really clear metrics on what gets you in. It's very, it's very up in the air, and I think that what we'll kind of talk about a little bit tonight is they've got this fan voting aspect of the Rock Hall, and I've been keeping an eye. I did my vote. My wife did her vote. We're keeping an eye on what the tallies are. They've got over 1.3 million votes already, but I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how. I think they're trying to kind of play into more of the fan idea by doing this. Um, I do have some metrics to show you guys, or
Oh,
to explain to yeah. So looking over the last few years to see how it's kind of it's kind of changed a little bit. It's kind of it'll and I think it's interesting to kind of look at that kind of stuff and see if we can spot what some of those metrics might be and how they might play out with the 2023 nominee list.
do you think it's shocking that there's only 1.5 million votes right now?
Um, I don't know if it's shocking. I thought it was kind of high, but
Oh, okay,
maybe that's just me. I mean,
sure.
but I thought it seemed a little high. I think it's great because it shows that people are engaged. And it's people are engaged, people are voting, they're involved. Um, but I think that you guys will be interested to see some of the weird little. And I only went back 3 years, but I think
Okay.
that'll be interesting to see some of the odd little quirks that I've discovered, which will be interesting.
So I will tell you this. There is 7 shows I listened to this week that had conversations about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and their opinions based off it. Howard
Really?
Stern had a piece this week where he talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and his opinion about it. Eddie
Hmm.
Trunk has a show on SiriusXM that
Yeah.
talks about it. Talks about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and his opinion about it and what it actually
Hmm.
means to him. And then also I listened to E Entertainment. I listened to MTV's broadcast of it. I listened to it is the Bennington show on SiriusXM, and then I also listened to the Conan O'Brien show about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there
Oh,
was
cool.
80% of it was pretty much the general consensus about the entire thing, that they believed that, and kind of what I said last year, that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame really isn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that it is the Music Hall of Fame, that changed
Agreed. Yeah.
drastically in 2012 when they really started incorporating more pop artists, rap artists, hip hop artists,
Hmm.
artists outside of things where it was more culturally based, and kind of from there.
Yeah.
So they talked about it, and that makes sense. And we talked about this even last month when we went over Rolling Stone's top 100 vocal artists or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And there was
Mhm.
artists on there that wasn't something that we generated towards, and we had a hard time with the list because the idea behind the list didn't really meet what they were selling. When you have a list called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not a list, but you're inducting people in a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you have lists that come out that are not associated to rock and roll, then I start becoming that dick, I guess. It's just because they're not the same thing.
Well, you're right. I really think, which is why I think that the concept of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame needs to be rethought and
Correct.
needs to be, I think, rebranded is what I think they need to do. I mean, I understand, rock and roll is the term, and that's the buzzword that they create, that what's his name, Alan, what's his name, created in Cleveland and all that stuff. And I get that. But I think that, we need to reconsider what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, what it means, and if that term is really the inclusive term that what I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has become, because I think it's become more inclusive. It's become more, we've got Dolly Parton. I guarantee you this year we're going to have Willie Nelson.
Yep.
We've got country artists, we've got hip hop artists, we've got rock and roll, we've got men and women. We need more women. So I think a lot of that stuff. So
I agree on that.
Let's get into this list of nominees. And do you have a graphic to pull up?
I am going to go right to the main page for this.
Perfect. Sounds good.
let me get right to it. Hold on a second. Facebook seems to be having some serious issues with the live stream for some reason. I got a message from Facebook saying we apologize, but so we're on YouTube, but we're not on Facebook. So I just shared this on I shared the link to YouTube on our Facebook page, but the Facebook link for some reason is not. Facebook's having some live issues. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
All right. So anyway, so let's get this page up real quick. We're gonna show the actual page and then go from there. So there's this. Oh, there's that. There's this. There's that. And boom, there we go. All right. So we're on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame page. I'm gonna press this. I think this is a page. Let's go to induction. So this is the actual Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.com. You go to rockhall.com and it shows the nominees. And here are the nominees: A Tribe Called Quest. You know what? I have nothing. Listen, Tribe Called Quest had quite a few songs back in the day that were that I would say that fit that mold, I suppose. I'm trying to see if I can do something while we're talking about this. What is your opinion about Tribe Called Quest?
I love Tribe. I love Tribe. I think they're a seminal hip hop group. I think it's a hip hop group that's influenced a lot of people that have come after them. I think that's one thing that the Rock Hall doesn't do necessarily well, and it's just, I think, for the nature of the beast of what it is. But when you get a band like Nirvana that gets in, and you're like, there wouldn't have been a Nirvana without the Pixies, yet the Pixies are still not in. I think you look at Tribe, and you'll see a lot of hip hop groups that would look to them as influences. It's their first time on the ballot. Do they get in? I don't think so, unfortunately, because of this. I wouldn't call it a backlash against hip hop, but I think right now at this point, we've really only seen kind of the upper echelon of hip hop getting in, like, your Jay-Z's and your Eminems and your Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. and people like that. But I was really excited that they were on the list. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about 99% of the artists on this list. I think it was a really great. Yeah, I thought it was really great to see a lot of the more modern acts on, like Sheryl Crow. I was really excited about Sheryl Crow. Rage again, Joy Division and New Order. I got issues with them both being on there. I think it's really weird to stick them both in there because I think they're two totally different
Juice.
acts.
I agree with you on that one.
But yeah, I think this is one of the first really it really hit a lot of the music that I listened to growing up. So like 80s, 90s, all that kind of stuff is on this list of nominees. And not a lot of the old like 60s and 70s artists that have really permeated a lot of these lists in the last several years.
Yeah, and it always seems like you get these like random every so often band, I suppose, I guess, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting nonetheless. But there is some on here I can agree with. But I would say I'm probably in the 60%, not 99%. In my opinion.
Okay, I got you.
I'm trying to see how I can control the music a little bit. Oh, here we go. But I mean, Tribe Called Quest. I like Tribe Called Quest.
I love Tribe Called Quest. Scenario is one
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, Scenario is one of my favorite Tribe Called Quest songs. I mean, Left My Wallet in El Segundo. I mean,
they were very different when they came out too. They were a band that was really mixing a lot of music, especially into their beats that was not traditional to what was hip hop at that time. They were definitely on that borderline of taking. They came out after Beastie Boys. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, they may have hit after the Beastie Boys, but I think they're, contemporaries of the Beastie Boys. At least they were probably getting started around that time and probably didn't really hit until after. Let's see what the good old Wikipedia has to say.
Because, I mean, they really, at that point, were just moving things in a different direction for hip-hop at that point that really picked up heavily.
And I think they still... I think you hear their stuff now, and it's still very original.
Oh,
there aren't people that sound like them.
Brad says this means you're just getting old. It could be.
I'm not getting old. I am old.
Yeah.
And they got started in '85, so they would have been right around that, Beastie Boys, that early wave of hip hop. But yeah, I like that. I like that early wave of hip hop. Somebody asked me actually before the list of rappers came out, they were like, "Who's your favorite rapper of all time?" And I was like, "It's either Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg." I'm sorry, that's where for me hip hop begins and ends with The Chronic. I mean,
that's a great point.
That album is insane, but I am also the same guy that listens to the stuff I listened to, 30 years ago. So
I agree with you on that one. That's a good point. I think the defining moment in the change of hip hop was with Wu-Tang Clan, and I think it was justified by Dr. Dre and The Chronic, and I think that's when it really became really mainstream, especially to white America. Right at that point, that's when they really jumped on it, because then that created Eminem, and that created that whole justification of what rap was going to be and how it developed. Prior to that, I believe bands like, I think Tribe Called Quest definitely changed the scene. I think they are deserving this. But here's the question then. Are they rock and roll? No. So
I think with the standard definition of rock and roll, yes. But I think as we've discussed, the idea of what rock and roll is needs to be redefined.
Okay.
Or expanded. Yeah, or expanded.
So are they in your top 6 going in then?
They are not, unfortunately.
Okay.
Not that I don't love them, but no, they are not in my top 6.
Okay. I'm okay with that. They are in my top 6 of going in.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep,
That's great.
All right, now let's go to the next one. This is an interesting one, and I'm going to ask you one question. Does Kate Bush even make this list if not for Stranger Things and the success of the song last year?
You know what? The answer is she does. And the reason is because I looked at the lists for the last 3 years, and she was on it 2 of the last 3 years. Yes, she was on it in 2022, and she's been on it and was on it in 2021. So she's been on it for the last 3 years in a row, which is pretty interesting because generally, if you're on the list and you don't get in, you kind of get a year off,
Yeah.
and they kind of cycle through people. And one of those examples I'll give you was Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden was
Okay.
on the list for 2021. They didn't get in. They are back on the list for 2023.
Okay.
Judas Priest, not on in 2020, not on in 2021. They got in 2022. So I think to be on the list 3 years in a row, it bodes well for Kate Bush. Obviously, the success of that song coming back with Stranger Things also bodes well for her. Unfortunately, she does not make the top 6 on my list.
She doesn't make the top 6 for my list too. I've tried going through her music as we're doing it right now, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't. Besides that song, that Running Up the Hill, I don't know much by her. And once again, I don't expect to know everybody that's going in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because there's going to be people that are influential to artists that I listen to now that I'm not familiar with, and I understand that and I respect that. But this, I tried getting into it, and the only song I will say this: there was one song on here that like hit me hard because I'm a big Peter Gabriel fan. And I didn't realize that she was the backing vocals to "Don't Give Up."
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
That those, that "Don't Give Up." That's her, and I didn't know that. And that song, God, there was many times in my life, like God, or like early 2000s when I was like living in my car, like I'd put this on and it was just like a really good. But man, her voice, fantastic. I don't think she's got
she's got a great voice. I think she could be one of these people. She could be one of these acts that gets in on one of these weird little things that they have. And I can't ever remember, but let me do a little quick search and I will tell you what this is called. Like it happened last year. We can keep going and I'll tell you when I find it. But
no, there's nothing saying that she doesn't have an amazing voice. 100% has an amazing voice. There's nothing saying she's not talented. 100% talented. I think she's one of those people that are like the spice of like a meal. Like she's not the actual like the whole course of it, but she's a part of it, whether the appetizer and stuff. Because I feel like she's been a part of a lot of things. But I don't think that she's made the largest impact that it's come across my plate at all. So I don't know much about her.
Yeah.
She's not in my top 6.
So last year there were 7 people that got in as performers, which was just to refresh your memory: Pat Benatar, Duran Duran, Eminem, The Eurythmics, Dolly Parton, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon.
Okay.
Then they had 2 people, a band and then 2 producers that got in under a category called the Musical Excellence Award, which was Judas Priest and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So Judas Priest didn't get in as a performer, but they found this way of this Musical Excellence Award, which we don't really know what that means, to kind of shove them in. And this is also what happened with LL Cool J. LL Cool J got in not as a performer, but under one of these like weird categories that they've created. Like they have one called Early Influence Award, and then they have all of these little extra things that they've kind of used to stick people in. So they're in, but they're not in as performers, which is interesting. So, I mean, I think that we could see that happen and somebody else kind of getting grandfathered in on one of these little weird things that they've invented.
I can see that. It's almost like a side door to get in.
Right? Yeah. It's something that's happened over the last several years. Like I said, it happened with LL Cool J. And it's just one of these things that it's kind of strange. It didn't make a ton of sense. Like it's only happened over the last several years and it's kind of weird and they don't really explain it, but that's what happens.
All right. So you think Kate Bush will find a backdoor way to get in?
Maybe, and it could be on the push of the Stranger Things. And I mean, there wasn't a day that I didn't drive in my car this summer and not hear that song on the radio. I gotta tell you, it was on every freaking pop station, and I love that song. Don't get me wrong, but after you hear it about 1,000 times, you kind of get sick.
It's old. Well, I will say something. That's artists who have contributed to Bush's own albums include Elton John, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, David Gilmour, Nigel Kennedy, Gary Brooker, Danny Thompson and Prince.
Oh, she is. There is no doubt.
Oh,
She
yeah.
is she is a respected artist, and
100%.
yeah, there's no question, no question about her
But
credentials at all.
but this is
I
kind of
think
like
this is
our opinions.
this is our opinions, but I got to tell you, I think that this list of nominees is one of the strongest in the last several years. I
Okay.
mean, I think you look at a lot of the people on this list, and you're like, you can see a reason why they belong. You know why they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I think a lot of them will end up there at some point in time.
100%.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Next on this list, I think we're both going to agree with this. Sheryl Crow. If it makes you happy, does she make your top 6?
and I don't want to do this the entire show. I love Sheryl Crow. I think she's amazing. I love all of her stuff. I think she could get in one of the side categories. Does she make my top 6? I don't think so.
Really?
It's kind of yeah. I gotta be honest. She doesn't make my top 6 just because there are only 6 spots, and she did not make one of them. So
I agree with you, and I like Sheryl Crow. And there was a point where it was like either Sheryl Crow or Tribe Called Quest, and I picked Tribe Called Quest.
I think Sheryl Crow, she will get in. There's no doubt about it. She will get in, and I wouldn't be surprised if she does get in this year.
I agree with you on that one.
She's just not on. She's not on my list. She's always been a favorite of the Rock Hall. She's inducted many other artists. She was there last year and inducted somebody. I can't remember exactly who, but and that's a big deal. They kind of have this. It's this little club, and if you look at people that have been there and have been invited to induct people, chances are they get in at some point.
Correct. Look what Eddie Vedder did for so many years.
Eddie, Dave Grohl. There's a lot of people that, get in, and it is kind of like this little fraternity. They've been there for years. They all know these people, and yeah, would it surprise me if she gets in? Not at all. She's just not in my top 6 this year.
Okay. All right. Moving on to where things could potentially get controversial with Missy Elliott. Once again, I will say this, and I'm going to say it multiple times. If this was the Music Hall of Fame, I might have different opinions about this. But because it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I just don't know. Like, when you think of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you think of how it was influential to others in rock and roll, how it's brought up, how it does things. I don't think there's anything rock and roll about Missy Elliott except being maybe a little edgy when it comes to her performances. But for the most part, I just don't see that.
I agree with your assessment of, and I know that we kind of differ in our opinions on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and what it all means, and the redefinition of stuff like that. But I got to tell you, Missy Elliott is on my top 6. She gets in.
Ooh.
I really do think she gets in. Being a female rapper, she'd be the first female rapper to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Really?
She'd also
I didn't
be
know that.
she'd also be a first ballot. She'd also be a first ballot act, which is like, that puts her up there with Eminem and Tupac and all of those types of people. So I mean, this is like catapulting Missy into the upper echelon of hip hop, which I think is where she is. Just performance, like you said, innovative. I mean, there are songs that, I think you look at people now, you look at Cardi B and you look at female MCs like that. I don't think there is a Cardi B or there's any of those rappers without Missy Elliott. I mean, if you want to look at influences, yeah, I think there's no Cardi B without Missy, and I think Missy would also put on one hell of a show.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be a fun spot.
Missy Elliott does 100% influence a lot of today's top artists. I do believe that Lil' Kim kind of pushed Missy Elliott to be the artist she was, because I mean, Lil' Kim was influenced by 50 Cent, not 50 Cent, I'm sorry, Notorious B.I.G., and that kind of opened the doors for a lot more female artists like Faith Evans and things of that nature. I do know my fair share of female hip hop artists from the 90s, but I enjoy Missy Elliott's music thoroughly. Like
Mhm.
there's been plenty of times that I've found her music to be extremely entertaining to a point where you listen to her music like damn, like even when she did her Super Bowl performance, you're like damn, like you don't realize like there was a point
Yeah.
where people found her music to be almost a joke because of how like she came out and did her videos with like
Yeah.
the
There
rain
was like
like
there
yeah
was
it was,
like a corny edit, a
mhm.
corny thing to it, but I think that what she did was she brought more of a humor to humor to hip hop, into her
Yep.
hip hop, because I think that a lot of people do look at hip hop, and it's, talking about social messages and social change, and there's a lot of deep stuff with a lot of hip hop. And I think that Missy still has that, but she also brings more of a humorous side to things, whether with her performance and with her lyrics, that makes you kind of look at it in a different light.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I will say this: if I could do what they call a swaparoo,
Mhm.
100%, I would remove Bon Jovi from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and put Missy Elliott in his place. Just putting it out there.
I've got to say, my wife and I were talking about this next act on the list, Iron Maiden, and I
Oh, this is
said, you know what? I got to be honest. I think hair metal with Def Leppard and Bon Jovi both in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think we've covered hair metal, and I don't think, and I'm going to get a lot of hate. I'm not an Iron Maiden fan. Don't think they need to be in, but
So I literally had a conversation with Iron Maiden yesterday with our buddy Brad, and
uh
I didn't even know a fucking Iron Maiden song, and then he's like, "Well, maybe you do. Put these songs on," and I'm like, so I put them on, like "Run to the Hills."
Run to the Hills. That's the only one I know.
Well, no, there's gonna be more. Hold on. There's what the
Oh, that
number.
one. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
This is
I don't know
number
what
of
it's
the
called, but Number of the Beast?
number of the beast.
Yeah, Number of the Beast. I know the Zwan cover of
Yeah,
Number of the Beast. I don't know.
but I mean, here's the thing. After thinking about this, Aces of High, I think is another one. But like every song very much sounds the same to me.
Yeah, I don't think there is a lot of I don't think there's
Oh,
a lot of variety in musicality. They're super,
super talented.
great
I couldn't do
musicians.
this.
Yes. No, me neither. Super talented. I get why people like them. They still do like huge sold out shows all over the world. Um, but to me, there's nothing really. There's nothing. I don't. Original is not the right word, but I don't hear anything there that I'm not hearing from that I haven't heard from other British, heavy metal bands.
I agree with you. And here's my thought. And we talk and I said this already, like influential, right? So if
Mhm.
Iron Maiden, and I think they have influenced many bands through the
They
course of
probably,
times,
probably, of
100%.
course,
But like then if that's the case, if you got another thing coming, that's a Judas Priest song? How
that's
is it not?
Judas Priest. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that shit. Okay. I think we talked about this yesterday. Yeah. Oh, it is. Okay. But I mean, even still, right? Like I would say
I
why
think
is
that people look at
I
like
think
Sabbath. I mean, I
yeah.
think people look at Sabbath as a more influential band. You know, I just that style of music. I don't know. It's the high soaring vocals, and all, I think it's been done by other bands. It's been done better.
I agree. And I mean, like, here's the thing:
Yeah.
Black Flag is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think Black Flag opened up a huge, you know, door for punk rock and very much controversial music in the '80s.
Well, I think you and I have talked about we talked about punk rock on the episode about singers, and I
Yeah.
think that you're absolutely right that doesn't have as much representation in the hall as it should have.
Yep.
I mean, it took forever for the Ramones to get in. Um, I
Which is
don't
ridiculous.
know. I mean, I think the Clash is in, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think yeah, they are.
I mean, okay, yeah. So I mean, but I mean, there are other. You look at let's look at the last couple of years and see the New York Dolls have been on the list several times and haven't gotten in.
But are they punk rock though? That's more. I think that's
I
more
mean,
glam rock.
you're right. I agree, but you don't see a lot of like where's Fugazi, where's Black
Mm,
Flag, where's
correct.
there are a lot of, and Green Day's in, but they're not punk. They're
No,
not punk
that's pop
rock
punk.
yeah, we're not talking so where are those punk rock bands that have influenced a lot of people. I mean, I think a lot of grunge acts were influenced by punk rock, obviously. So I mean, there's a lot there. And I don't think that punk has a great representation in the Rock Hall. So
I agree. So here's the question: is Iron Maiden in your top 6?
sorry for that. Absolutely not. No.
Okay, good. All right, we're on the same page. Here's where we get a little more controversial. Oh, here's Iron Maiden has sold over 130 million copies of their albums worldwide.
Can't argue with that. I mean, that's a
No,
great.
that's
No, that's awesome.
that's
And I can't argue with that. That's
No.
a perfect point.
all right.
I just don't like Iron Maiden.
No,
That's
I don't
me.
either. That's me. I'm on the same page as you. Don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
The 130 million people love Iron Maiden. I'm
That's
not
right.
one of them.
Then I'm one of them. That's right. We are we are in that 1%. Joy Division and New Order. This is two bands. I am very frustrated by the fact this and I'm going to prove it right now.
I really am. Yeah, me too.
This Joy Division song, which is the most popular song, Love Will Tear Us Apart. Everybody knows it. It's very common, right? Okay. And I understand. I feel as though this is almost saying like Mother Love Bone and Pearl Jam are the same band. That's how I think like these two classifications are almost similar.
I can't disagree with you there. I think that they're two. I mean, this song was definitely like the bridge between the two bands. It was like one of the last New Order songs that they ever did. And
Most
then
popular,
they became I'm sorry, that was the last Joy Division song that they ever did, but it was but the band had, the New Order had finished it up. Ian had done all the lyrics and everything. But yeah, you listen to New Order and it's a totally different band. I mean, regardless of the singer, they just sound different.
Yeah.
It's
more electronic.
It's more electronic. It went more. I mean, I don't think there's an argument that they're completely different bands, whether they have the same members or not. And I love them both, but I think it's kind of denigrating them, putting them in the same hopper.
Here's the thing. I think Joy Division influenced bands like Interpol. I think
Joy Division influenced tons of bands.
Well, I'm just saying in general, like that. You can say Joy Division influenced Interpol. New Order influenced Nine Inch Nails. There's
I do think early Joy Division influenced Nine Inch Nails. But I think you're right. I think that there's a different sound there. The Joy Division, your comparison between Joy Division and Interpol is spot on. They're both just more stark.
Yep.
And there are New Order songs that are, very uplifting and positive and things like that. It's not all, Bizarre Love Triangle and stuff like that.
Correct.
But yeah, to me, they're just if they're two sides of the same coin, or something like that. Joy Division is a rainy day and New Order is a sunny day, and those are two different things.
So yeah, I feel like this is a lazy Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction where they came with this because I think they both could get in on their own merit and their own background and their own songs and their own influences. So they are on my top 6, but it's frustrating that they're both joined together.
I agree. Yes. 100% with everything you said, except that they are not on my top 6. And I love Joy Division. Let me tell you, I love Joy Division. Let me be clear. My top 6 is the top 6 that I think are getting in, not necessarily who I would choose myself to put in.
Okay. All right. So Cyndi Lauper. First of all, I love this song, by the way, Time After Time.
Who doesn't? If you don't like Time After Time, you're a terrible person.
If you haven't jokingly danced with your wife to this song in the kitchen when she's trying to get dishes done and you just want to fuck with her a little bit, you have fucking missed out on life. Because this is like the perfect just goof. Like this is a great song, and she is a fantastic artist. And realistically, like I went down a rabbit hole of her music the other day when we were talking.
And you loved a lot of stuff.
a shit ton of her stuff. She's got a
Yeah.
fantastic voice, energetic, influential by leaps and bounds. The amount of artists she influenced through rock and roll, hip hop, everything. There's a lot of artists that say like they look at her for her, not only just her style of music, her vocals, but the way that she was able to be edgy and controversial in ways that were like just put her in a spotlight. She really started something that like Madonna followed behind, and so many different things. This should be an easy yes, and based off the way that things are voting, she's definitely going to be in.
Yeah, she's currently at the top of the list with over 150,000 votes from the fan voting. I totally agree. You listen to even songs of hers that like the Goonies song.
Oh yeah,
is still, that's a bop. Whether it's not a song that's well known of hers. She wrote tons of stuff. She wrote most of her stuff. Just everything about, and Cyndi Lauper is on my top 6. I think she totally gets in. And yeah.
Next on our list is someone that so I got to see George Michael live.
Did you really?
Oh yes, I did. I saw him with Elton John
oh man, that's
back
awesome.
in the 90s. And man, there are times in my life where I will put on a George Michael song and it fucking this song in general. Freedom? Man, like
it's a great song.
And the fact that like when a song came out, there are people that are totally against certain things. I'm not trying to be political, but they'll listen, oh man, this song's amazing, not realizing what it fucking stands for. Like
I don't think people that are younger than us really understand how big of a star George Michael was. I mean, when he left Wham to go solo, I mean, it was just like
it was huge.
He was in a huge band, and then he was just like, screw it, I'm going to do my own thing. And he was, there was a time where he was the biggest pop star in the world.
It was bigger than Justin leaving NSYNC. I mean, as funny as that sounds, like, that was in theory like Wham, and that was what it was.
Yeah, and he just went and did his own thing, and it was one of those leaving things, very similar to like Simon and Garfunkel, where the other dude didn't even know he was leaving, like he was gone, and the other dude had no idea.
Crazy.
And yeah, so and yeah, he was a huge star. He was also one of the first pop stars to fight with his record label, very similar to Prince.
Yep.
Didn't want to work under the the constriction of one of these horrible contracts and stuff like that, and also missed out on several years of making music and touring because he didn't want to do it the way that they wanted him to do it. So basically fighting for the rights of creative people. But and great voice. Great voice.
What is your favorite George Michael song?
It's kind of stupid. I love Freedom. I love Faith. It's got to be, I think it's Monkey.
Really?
Yes, I love that song. I think it's a great song.
That is a good song. Let me see if I can.
Don't look now, there's a monkey on your back.
Man, I don't even know if it's on iTunes. I'm trying to find it.
Why can't you set your monkey free?
Did you ever see the movie that had Keenan Peele in it, where they're like the cat was like they're trying to find the cat, and it's like
I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it. Was there a George Michael thing there?
Yes, like he was trying to talk about how gangster George Michael was, and they played Father Figure, and they're in like and first of all, Father Figure is my favorite George Michael song, by the way.
It's a great song too.
Oh, they're in the van. And like there's a shooting going out, and all the guys are crying, and they're all like, and the guy's like, "Man, this guy's voice is great. Is he white?" And he's like, "No, this motherfucker's black."
I don't want to say, and I'm not speaking for a culture, but I've seen several documentaries about George Michael. Black people love George Michael. A lot of people, he was black, because of his voice, and So he in addition to just all the other stuff he did, he really, straddled racial lines, because a lot of black people loved George Michael. And that's one of the reasons that, yes, he's on my list. He's on my list, and he gets in.
List too. Faith sold 20 million copies. Holy shit.
And it'll be interesting. I think it'll be really cool to see, I think one of the challenges is there are a lot of people on specifically, one of my list that, aren't around anymore. So I think it'll be interesting to see how, who they get to sing his stuff.
That's a good
so that'll be interesting.
Think of that. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I think, especially like if we look at the, if we kind of take the top 5 vote getters that we've got on the Rock Hall fan site right now. So we've got Cyndi Lauper
live
is 1, George Michael dead,
passed. Yep.
3 Warren Zevon dead,
passed.
4 Soundgarden, Chris Cornell no longer with us.
Yep, passed.
And then 5 we've got Willie Nelson, who is still hanging in. But I mean, that's 3 of the top 5 vote getters that it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah.
As far as, getting people. I think Warren Zevon, who has always been a perennial, touted by Springsteen and all kinds, they get like some sort of all-star, if he's in, get some sort of all-star band. Last Christmas is the worst. Well, no, the second worst Christmas song ever.
I disagree with you. Have you ever seen Last Christmas movie that's based on George Michael songs? That is absolutely.
I have
fantastic.
not. Is it good?
Oh, it
okay.
is. It's so corny. Me and my wife
still
watch
hate
it
that
every
song.
year. Love that song.
Do you really?
I do love that song. All right,
my
let's go.
least favorite Go ahead. But my least favorite Christmas song is "Wonderful Christmas Time" by Sir Paul McCartney.
Wait, you're telling me that you like Mariah Carey's Christmas song more than those?
Better than both of those, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God, that's hard. That's hard. All right,
I know you don't like Mariah. Willie Nelson, he gets in, no question. The redheaded stranger.
I can't. I mean, I went down a road of listening to his music the other day, and he's you know what it is? If anything, he's influenced so many musicians.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's just in a nutshell, and just he's been around forever. He's still out. He's still out doing it. He's still touring now. So
crazy, right?
I think it's crazy that he's not already in.
Yeah, that's a surprising. I didn't even think about it like that, but it is crazy that it's been this long.
But I think that this is the Rock Hall, turning a new eye to country music. I think we'll see more. I think we'll see more country artists up for induction and getting in. But yeah, I think it's a little weird that he's not.
I would say probably the next person that's gonna be a country artist that's gonna be going in is probably Garth Brooks. And then that's gonna be next year will be a fun topic for that.
I gotta tell you, it's a dark time in my history, but I did go see Garth Brooks once, and he put on one hell of a show. It was amazing.
Is this a joke?
No, absolutely.
Oh no.
It was amazing. I didn't know. I knew barely any songs. It was a great show. He is fantastic. I don't listen to him. I don't listen to him ever, but it was fun.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't call myself like a fan or anything, but no, I went to his show. It was great.
I've heard he's like the Kiss of country music.
I don't know if that's an accurate description. I'd say he's like the Bruce Springsteen of country music.
Really? I've expected him to be like,
you wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest country artist in the world, it is Garth Brooks.
No,
it was like 30. It was like 30 years ago. I don't remember that well, but no, it was fun. It was a good show.
I couldn't do it. All right, now let's talk about a band I think we both will agree on. Well, the next couple, Rage Against the Machine should have been in already. I mean,
I agree.
They influenced a shit ton of bands. They were willing to be controversial. They were willing to be like just really go all. I don't know, half my lights just died on me.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck just happened. They were willing to go all out on things, be really like just do it and just like really take a stand for something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
and I also think like in musically, I think that like there never would have been new metal without Rage Against the Machine. There wouldn't have been, bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit and any of those new metal type bands would not have been, I think, successful had it not been for Rage Against the Machine. But so the influence is obviously there. Tom Morello is one of the most amazing guitar players we've ever seen. I mean,
Correct.
I think you. I mean, I no bullshit. I think you put him up there with like Jimi Hendrix with the stuff he can do with a guitar.
You make an excellent point. You put Jimi Hendrix just playing guitar, 80% of people will be like, "That's Jimi Hendrix." You put Tom Morello playing
You
guitar,
know it's Tom Morello.
You know it's Tom Morello. He has a sound that was so different.
Yeah. And the stuff he does with the guitar is just unparalleled. Other people, you don't hear people trying to sound like Tom Morello because they can.
They can't.
You don't hear people trying to sound like Jimi Hendrix because they
can't.
couldn't.
I love
Yeah,
Mike
because
McCready.
they
He's
can.
tried to do Jimi Hendrix, but you can hear it's Mike McCready playing Jimi Hendrix.
Well,
This is-
yeah. But it's just something about the way that they play. And I've listened to lots of interviews with Morello just talking about like, you know, I realized I wasn't going to be able to afford like all these effects and stuff like that and all this fancy shit. And I just had to figure it out with what I had. And there's nothing about Rage that I don't love, except for the fact that they're not on my top 6. I feel bad about that. Yeah.
Oh man, that is
I think Rage is going to be one of these bands that
fighting again.
I think the politics will be problematic for a lot of these old white people that vote to get them in. I think they will get in. Another thing that kind of bums me out about Rage this year is that if they do get in, Zach is still recovering from his Achilles injury. So because they had to cancel tour dates all year. I know Tim Comerford is dealing with some cancer issues right now.
Oh, Jesus, I didn't know all that.
Yeah, so I think that would really suck because they wouldn't get to
perform.
If they got in, they wouldn't get to they just wouldn't get to give the performance that they would want to give, I think. Yeah. I mean, because you know how, and Zach, no disrespect, he powered through that North American tour sitting on a box every night while the band was going crazy, and he just delivered the fire, you know, from a seated position like other, you know, we've seen Dave Grohl and Axl Rose do it on the throne. Man, he just sat in a box and did it. And I think that if they were going to get in, he'd want to be able to give it his all. But do you think Rage gets in it? I hope they get in at some point.
So
I
didn't make the list on like, do they get in or they don't? This is like I want them to get in. I think they
want them in. I want them in too, and I think they totally deserve to be there. But let's move along to somebody who is on my list.
Soundgarden.
The Soundgarden.
Man, Chris Cornell is the voice that so many people tried to be even before him. And I've said this. Oh, Robert Plant wanted to have Chris Cornell's voice before Chris Cornell was even born. His voice is something we'll never hear again. There's no one that's ever going to sing like Chris Cornell. And
no,
the way that he was able to use his voice, and with the way that Soundgarden played in a way that really his voice, in theory, like if you're listening to this song right now, Blow Up with the Outside World, the way that he's singing this right now, and then he can fucking change it on a dime and get those high notes. I mean, the band and the way it worked was something that was so revolutionary at that point, you know, for music. God, I mean, the fact that they're not in right now is criminal. And the fact that Chris Cornell's never going to be able to enjoy that moment up on stage of realizing how important he was with that band is kind of depressing in its own sense. I assume Soundgarden gets in this year. I assume Brandy Carlisle will be the vocalist for that, which will be fantastic because I think she's got a great voice to accompany this music. And I've, seeing it online and stuff. Man, they should have been in years ago, and man, they're fucking fantastic.
I agree. I mean, I think there's so much attention, rightfully so, on Cornell's voice, but I think the inventiveness of his guitar playing and songwriting is just unparalleled. I mean, he was definitely the songwriting force in that band, and they had amazing songs. Clear. I a clear vision, as a creator and a songwriter, and that to me is just the saddest thing, that we're not gonna have any more of Chris just doing what he was born to do. He was put here to sing amazing songs and to write amazing songs, and I really have them on my list. I hope they get in. I think it would be so good to celebrate them. I think it's, but also so sad that Chris is not there.
Yeah, I think Chris Cornell in his own merit could go in by himself. Like, I think I mean, his solo career is fantastic as well. But no, I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and think about it. I mean, Brad brought up a great point a little while ago that, like, Audioslave was huge, and the fact that you talk these two bands together, like, there's a middle point between Rage and Soundgarden. That Audioslave.
No, that's a great point, and I had thought the exact same thing. Like, I think it would be poetic if they actually both got in on the same year. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, that connection, and I was fortunate enough to be able to see Soundgarden and Audioslave, and they were, both fantastic. And Chris brought it every night, man. He was so good.
Yeah. So I think we both agree on this one.
Rest in peace, Chris.
100%. The Spinners. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know who the fuck the Spinners were previous to this list, and I felt
Couldn't tell you. I mean, I had heard of the Spinners. Couldn't tell you what songs they had. I feel bad that they're on this list because there are just so many more people. I could see the Spinners getting in on one of these, like,
side doors,
on one of the side doors, and more power to them.
All right, you want to hear a few songs?
Sure.
All right, this is their number one song based off iTunes called "I'll Be Around."
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know this one.
Okay, so all right, one for one. One of the songs. Great song, by the way. Okay. All right, let's go. This is "Could It Be I'm Falling in Love."
Oh, could it be I'm falling in love? Yeah.
2 for 2. See, this you're doing. I love the fact you had to listen to this because you're doing exactly what I did when I ready. The next song is actually a song I loved as a kid. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
Rubber Band Man.
Oh, I love Rubber Band.
I
had no idea.
I was like, holy shit! Dude. First of all, this song, man. This.
Oh, the bass line.
Oh, dude, jam it. Oh.
Rubber Band Man, get down, yeah.
Oh man. And the fact, I don't know if you ever watched him, the bass player would play the bass so high up, it was like, he was like, and he got like the same, every song, the same groove.
He's like the guy from Dave Matthews Band, who's got it like really high.
Except
that Matthews Band bass player.
Except I like this band, not Dave Matthews Band.
You like this? You like the Spinners better?
Oh, I do. I've.
Now I might have to look at my list and say the Spinners.
Oh, ready?
Because I like all three of those songs. What's the next one?
Then Came You. Very popular in 80s movies back in the day.
Oh, gotta love that. Wow, wow,
yeah.
wow.
Oh. Dude, how about this one? It's a Shame. And then
yeah.
Dude, I'm like the list goes on and on. Actually, they're very, very, very popular.
Okay, put the Spinners in, the side door. Put them in the side door.
God, yeah. All right, are you ready for?
They're not top 6, but put them in the side door.
Love it. Are you ready for this one? Because I have fought tooth and nail about this with people that even love this band that don't think they belong in it, including one of the most commenting people on this right now. I believe the White Stripes. Oh yeah, I believe the White Stripes should 100% go in right away. I also
100%. Yes.
First, not only for influentially, because I believe they opened the door for a lot of different kind of music that was coming out in the late 90s, early 2000s, with their music being different, not having a full piece band, removing the bass from the artist and having Jack play those echelon higher notes on the guitar, doing different tuning, making it feel more full with just 2 pieces, having a very simplistic drum beat to control what would turn into one of the top 20 guitarists of our generation, in my opinion. The White Stripes have song after song after song. And one comment that was brought to me, I think it was Brad who said it today, is like, because I brought up this comment of like, well, Led Zeppelin got in pretty quickly and they didn't win a lot of awards and whatever. And he's like, well, everyone knows a lot of Led Zeppelin songs. I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of people that know White Stripes songs. I mean, they were
go to any sporting event.
Seven Nation Army. You're going to hear Seven Nation Army. The damn they were in The Simpsons. They were popular by The Simpsons. They're in a ton of movies. There's a lot of things. Love it. Love this song. Or this was huge on MTV.
There you go. Yep.
Icky Thump, which was used by
Icky Thump.
Donald
I love
Trump.
Icky Thump.
And then they turn into Icky Trump. I don't know. That was only, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
We're Going to Be Friends, which was used in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
The Hardest Button to Button, also seen in The Simpsons, which was a huge hit.
The Simpsons episode,
that was fucking fantastic.
And they had the weird video.
Yes, that was fantastic. Blue Orchid, which was huge.
I love Blue Orchid.
I love this. This was such a great song live. Dead Leaves in a Dirty Ground.
Oh, it's almost my favorite.
You're Pretty Good Looking. I love this song. Early White Stripes, but it shows you what they would turn in. For a girl. Hotel Yorba.
Oh, I love Hotel Yorba too.
My Doorbell. Come on. Boom. Boom, boom.
Little Ghost. I mean, you could just name
the
a million.
Twist.
Yes.
I will even be willing to say this. If tomorrow there was 2 emails that came out, Hotel Yorba. See, Brad, you're only adding to you're giving me songs, but 100% you're also adding to the fact that they should be in. If tomorrow I got emails from Pearl Jam and White Stripes, and Pearl Jam says we're doing 20 dates, and White Stripes says I'm doing 20 dates, I'm probably spending money on the White Stripes first before I go to Pearl Jam because of the fact because they haven't played in a long time.
Yeah.
And there's also the fact that I believe that Pearl Jam can go play whatever they wanted to play and they would sell out. I believe that White Stripes could play Madison Square Garden. I guess they probably would do the same. This is probably a terrible example, but White Stripes can go play Madison Square Garden for a week and sell out every night.
I would not be surprised. I think that this is one of the most interesting acts on the list, simply because I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is dying to put Jack White in. Jack White will be in several iterations. I think if he gets in with the White Stripes, he'll be in as a solo artist. So I think they're dying to put Jack White in. But I think that this is the biggest, could be the biggest coup of the night. You're like, does Meg come back and do they reunite for one time to play 3 or 4 songs? And that would be my hope, that Meg would, I know she was dealing with, anxiety issues and all kinds of stuff, and which is why she stopped playing with Jack. But man, if she would come back and they would play a set, that would be the night for me. I would love to see it. I was fortunate enough to see them 3 times live. And they're just the way that they just vibe with each other on stage, and Jack kind of conducts the two of them together, but Meg is like this kind of her own little planet there, and she's in with everything, but she just doesn't. It's like she's just doing her own thing, and she's looking around, and she's always got the beat is solid and it's there, and they're just, for 2 people, they make a hell of a lot of noise on stage, and I would just love to see them together one more time.
I think if the White Stripes aren't on this list, I don't believe that there's any band on here that if there was rumor of them performing, that it would be a huge deal. That they would just play in Cleveland and it would be fine, and there would be tickets available up until the date. If there was an announcement the White Stripes get in and the White Stripes are going to perform, like if Jack White says, hey, this is going to be a one-time deal, we're just going to celebrate us as a band, they could go sell out any arena in America in a heartbeat, because there's going to be people from around the world that are going to want to be a part of that very amazing historic moment in which would be a rock and roll Hall
I
of
agree.
Fame worthy moment. So that
Yeah,
I think this band
I think
changes
that
everything.
I think that you and I think we are lucky enough to be able to take for granted that we, I mean, I've got to see the White Stripes. I know tons of people that, they've seen the Raconteurs, they've seen the
Yep.
Dead Weather, they've seen Jack Solo. They never got to see the White Stripes. And, that would be huge. And yeah, they could sell out pretty much. I mean, they could headline Coachella, they could headline anything they wanted. But
I don't even think they would need to do festivals. If the White Stripes
oh no, they could do it. They could do it on
to.
their own. Yeah, they could do anything they wanted to.
Correct. And here's the thing. So like Brad says, but I feel the Hall may not feel pressure to put the Stripes in because they know Jack will get in. But if Jack White got in this Hall of Fame by himself, it would be in Cleveland, regardless. Adding that allure of the White Stripes makes it different. And I'll give you a prime example. And it's different kind of genres. It is rock music, but it's different. When Pink Floyd got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with all of their living members at the time, there was different iterations of Pink Floyd. There was David Gilmour doing his thing. There's Roger Waters. And people would see them, but it was never truly Pink Floyd. If there was rumors or it came out that Pink Floyd's going to perform for 3 songs at that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they could have played on the fucking moon and it would have sold out. There's this allure.
This is I think you're right. This is like I think for our generation, this is like, and I'm not saying that these two bands are on the same, but this is like if any band that said they're never going to get back together might get back together for one night. If it's like, Led Zeppelin, I mean, obviously Bonham is dead. But if it was Zeppelin, if it was, the Smiths or somebody like that, this is what I think the rock. This is this would be a coup for the Rock Hall, and this is something that they hope that they're going to be able to get these people to come back and mend fences and get together and celebrate their careers or something like that.
Correct.
So this is like a Rock Hall moment. This is what they're hoping for at one of these events. So I see that. Now, am I a little disappointed that the White Stripes only have 57,000 votes on the fan voting? Yeah, that's surprising. I was really surprised. Yeah, I was really surprised to see them so far down. But I don't think it matters.
I also feel like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voting is like, if you look at the board and who's on it, it's a lot of old white men. And
absolutely.
You look at like the people that I listen to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame podcast, it's a lot of old white men talking to old white men.
Oh, it's all what? Yeah,
and
you're
it's like
100% correct.
I mean, I listened to it the other a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about Judas Priest, and it was like a 45-minute conversation about them not understanding that genre of music and how it was so new age. And I'm like, fucking, that was 40 years ago. Like, what? How old are you that you're?
Why are we
talking
having?
about this?
What are we? Yeah, what are we talking about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard for me to justify that voting because I mean, to be honest with you, I voted, but I didn't take it real serious. And the only reason I voted is because we're doing the show. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't vote.
It's the first year I've ever done it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I would love to see the White Stripes in. I would hope that Meg White would perform. I don't think she will. Seeing a very recent picture of her and understanding why she was very felt the way she did when she was performing because of how she was a woman and the pressure of the way she had to look in a certain way. And, she's had kids and she's not been in the spotlight. It's going to be tough because I feel as though she might want, I don't know. It's a lot of assumptions and I don't want to assume, but I would love to see her perform and I would love to see her do 3 songs.
Me too. Well, 3 songs. I know we were going to talk about what 3 songs would you.
I have it written down on my phone.
Okay.
I would love to see. First of all, Seven Nation Army has to be done. That's the most popular song played everywhere.
I would think so. Yeah.
I think Hardest Button to Button would be the other one, and then I would love to hear them do. It was called "We're Gonna Be Friends." I think with the book and all that stuff, I think that's the 3 songs I'd like from the play. I don't know. It's tough. It is tough. But then also
it's tough to only choose like 3 songs. I mean.
When especially for a band you love, I mean,
especially for a band like them, I mean, you could take any 3 songs. I mean, and the way when they play live, like the way that they'll mix songs together. Like they'll take like an older song, and then in the middle they'll split off into a, they would start with like, I don't know, maybe like Hello Operator, and then split into Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground and go back into Hello Operator or something like that. So
I could see that.
Yeah.
And realistically, what I could see happening is if White Stripes get in at some point, I could see Jack White performing with his band and then just like saying, hey, this one's from like Meg, and then going into like Seven Nation Army or something like that.
Yeah.
I just, as much as I would love nothing more than
I would love for him to get up there and be like, I'm Jack White and it's my big sister Meg. I'd just love to hear him say that one more time. Crack me up.
And it's funny because I was talking to my daughter the other day, who is very much, with her being a drummer and like very much fallen in love with the White Stripes, which is very interesting. At 6 years old, that she has like the White Stripes like Funko Pops in her room and pictures, and she's very much taken into that. I told she, like, we talked about it. It would mean the world to me to be able to like take her to see that, because I think that would be like almost like influential for her. But
and I think if she could see it on on TV, then that would be huge for her, and I think it might be huge for a lot of other young ladies. So
100%.
So Meg, if you're listening, please come out and play 3 songs. We love you, and we miss you.
Or if you just want to come on as a guest, we can talk to you about things.
Yeah, we can talk to you about, after you get into the Rock Hall. We'll talk about your experience.
That's right. But man, would love this. This is one of the ones that like on this entire list that like really struck like a personal chord. And I love Soundgarden. I mean,
I was just really happy to see. I was really happy to see them, and they're like the first of that early aughts rock. So I hope to see like the Strokes pop up on here and some bands like that. I mean, I would really love to see that too.
I agree with you. It's funny you said that, because after I watched that movie you told me to watch after last month on HBO or Showtime or whatever it was, it does open your eyes to like how like the White Stripes to the Strokes to even like My Morning Jacket, like there's a chain of events, Interpol, The Bravery, TV on the radio.
It's really cool that I mean, because it was different than grunge, because grunge was more of a geographic thing, and it was like all of these bands were kind of doing similar stuff but not really, so it was definitely a different vibe than grunge, which is what we obviously grew up on. But interesting to just see, and like Interpol and bands like that. So it was I thought it was it'll be cool to see if more of these bands start popping up, and also if the White Stripes get in, this will be a first ballot. This is the first time they've been on the ballot. It's the first time they're eligible. They'd be a first ballot in. That puts them in an elite category.
I agree. All right, last on the list, and interesting on the list, Warren Zevon. I know one song by him.
Werewolves of London.
Do we need to know anything else?
Well, Lawyers, Guns, and Money is pretty good too, but I do love Werewolves of London. The scene in The Color of Money with Tom Cruise dancing around a pool table singing Werewolves of London is pretty awesome.
But I went down a laundry list. Like, you know how we did the Spinners? And you're like, man, I know that song. Not
so many.
Here's the top 10 Warren Zevon songs according to Spotify. Ready? So, number 1, Werewolves of London. Number 2, Excitable Boy.
I know that record. I don't know the song. I know he had an album called Excitable Boy.
Okay, this is the song. I don't know it.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, this song I do know, and this song, Keep Me in Your Heart. You should know the song. Eddie Vedder covers it.
Does he? I didn't know. Oh, okay. Keep Me in Your Heart for a while. Okay.
And then Desperados, Under the Eaves. No idea.
No Lawyers, Guns, and Money yet?
That next song.
Is that in the top 10?
Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Next.
Okay.
But I've never heard this song. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next is Poor Pitiful Me.
Don't know it.
No. Carmelita is the next one.
No.
Roland the Headless Thompson.
No.
Tenderness on the Block. Very 80s.
No.
And
Yeah.
then Mohammed's Radio.
Don't know that one either.
So once again, I'm so glad the Spinners, when it came to alphabetical order, made sense. Spinners, you turn around,
Yeah.
you listen to it, you're like, oh shit, I've heard these songs. These are fantastic songs. Makes sense. Boom. I don't have that with Warren's, Zevon, and I understand.
I think
Werewolves of
Warren.
London.
Yeah, I think Warren was, one of those like 60s, 70s guys, was kind of like in that Springsteen vibe. I think he was also kind of championed by Springsteen, which, puts him on the Rock Hall map because, the Rock Hall people, they worship Bruce Springsteen, for decent reason. But so I think that there's obviously a lot of that going on. I think that this is a possibility that they could get Springsteen to come and induct Warren Zevon because he was such a big fan and friend. I do love Warren Zevon. I love the two songs that I know. And I think that he probably gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame through the back door, possibly, but
Okay.
he is not in my top 6. So he does not. And gotta say, I was shocked that he was that he's ranking 3rd in the fan voting. So there's the old white guys for us.
There's the old white guys coming out. That's right. The old white
Yeah.
guys coming out and voting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, sorry, Warren. I do love Werewolves of London, and I sing it every time it comes on the car radio. But yeah, who doesn't?
I even do the
Everybody
right.
does it.
That's
I've
right.
always wanted to do an art print, an art print of, I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain.
It is.
And I think about it, a lot. I was thinking about it today in the shower.
Man.
But yeah, I love the opening line. One of the greatest opening lines of a song ever. But I'm sorry, I got my 6, and it's Missy Elliott, Cyndi Lauper, George Michael, Soundgarden, The White Stripes, and the redheaded stranger, Willie Nelson.
The only person I swap out for is Rage with Missy Elliott.
And I wouldn't be mad at that. But I gotta. Part of me is like, we got to get more women in there. Which
I agree with you on that one. Yeah, and you know what? There's another. I did see something.
Although I gotta say, I think last year. So here's one of the things that I looked at. So I looked at the lists from 2022, 2021, 2020, and so the 2022 nominees, all 5 of the fan voted artists got in, which were Duran Duran, which Duran Duran had almost 1 million votes.
Wow.
And the next closest was Eminem at 680,000. So it was Duran Duran, Eminem, Pat Benatar, Eurythmics, Dolly Parton. All 5 of them got in, which was pretty impressive. Then we go to 2021, and I don't have the. Oh yeah, 2021. The top 5 was Tina Turner, who got in, Fela Kuti, who did not, the Go-Go's got in, Iron Maiden, who did not, and the Foo Fighters, who got in. So that was kind of interesting. And then 2020, we had, this is one of the most, this is a very hotly debated in the Dave Matthews Band community. Dave Matthews Band was the #1 vote getter with over 1 million votes. They did not get in. Pat Benatar was #2. She got in the next year. I'm sorry, she got in 2 years later. The Doobie Brothers, why? But they did get in. Soundgarden was the 4th vote getter in 2020, did not get in. And Judas Priest was the 5th, and they did not get in. So I think what I was looking at was just kind of, it seems to be that there are more people getting votes that are getting in over the last few years. So maybe that shows some kind of a change at the Rock Hall where they are considering the fan votes more. I think we'll have to see how it plays out.
Dolly Parton got in last year, right?
Yes, she did.
Okay, so Dolly Parton's in. Diana Ross is not in, right?
Diana Ross is in with the Supremes. She is not in as a solo artist.
Okay. Pat Benatar?
She got in last year.
Okay. What about that? I'm looking at a list right now, but it's from 2 years ago. Annie Lennox,
Okay. Annie Lennox got in with Eurythmics last year. She is not in as
Got
a solo artist.
Carpenters,
I don't think the Carpenters are in.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah is not in, but she is eligible.
Okay. The B-52s.
They are not, and I think the B-52s definitely deserve to be in from the indie perspective. I think it'll be one of those that takes a long, long time, but yeah, I think that the B-52s are. I love the B-52s. I don't know about you, but they're
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it's fun music. How about Cher?
I
Not in.
don't. Okay, I'm wrong.
That's what it says. I'm looking at a list.
Yeah.
The Runaways.
The Runaways are not in. No. So the Go-Go's are the first like all female band to get in.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
That was pretty like, and when I say band, I'm like band, not like group of singers, like the Supremes or something like that.
How about Carly Simon?
Carly Simon got in last year.
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand is not in, and that's Bjork is eligible. She is not in.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this out there, and I might get a lot of hate for this. I am not a Bjork fan. I don't understand it. Not my cup of tea.
I do like some. I mean, I like Bjork overall. And I like the weirdness of Bjork.
Sure.
And she's certainly original. And just like there's nobody else like Bjork. I think it'll be a long time before she gets in because I just don't think the Rock Hall is very accepting of weirdness. They have this really narrow idea of what rock and roll is. And I think that gets back to what we were talking about at the beginning. It's just this really narrow idea of what is considered rock and roll. And you're right. It's all these old guys talking about Judas Priest for 40 minutes. What are we,
But I will say this. There's 2 women that are not in yet. And one of them I even talked about on the last show that wasn't even announced as like a top singer, which fucking inferior. Tori Amos.
Celine Dion. Oh, Tori Amos. Yeah. Tori.
And Alanis Morissette should both be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I completely agree. I thought you were going to go with Celine Dion. I know you were really upset about Celine Dion last time.
Listen, I joined the Celine army. We're marching from Canada all the way across the country with our signs. We're gonna hold up and say put her in.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Tori Amos and Alanis Morissette. I mean, I don't think people that weren't alive in the 90s, they don't get how fucking huge that Alanis Morissette record was.
Every song was a fucking hit.
Everything was a hit, and she just, wow, man, it was like Lady Gaga back then. That
huge.
thing was huge.
And
Tori Amos is just a goddamn amazing talent. There's just no question.
If Warren Zevon can get in on 2 songs, then Alanis Morissette can get on an entire album.
Oh my God, there's no question. Not a question at all. She should, and she's got to be. Let me see. Alanis Morissette Rock Hall. She's got to be coming up. Okay, well, she was supposed to induct somebody last year.
Really?
And she dropped out because she said that it was a sexist environment, which we can't, we've been discussing that.
Correct.
But when is she's got to be coming up soon to be eligible, because it's 25 years from your first release. So she's got to be coming up.
I agree with you.
And we'll see if that affects, what happened, if that affects her.
Correct.
Oh no, she's been eligible. Sorry, she's been eligible since 2017.
So. Okay, I say because that album came. Yeah, interesting. Well,
yeah, she should. Yeah, there's no question she should be in.
Wow. Well, I will say this: interesting list. I think this list is better than last year, in my opinion.
I think so.
But it's going to be interesting to see what the final list is.
Yeah.
But All I can say is I am hoping deep down inside the White Stripes get in and we can see something special. Because I think that's what makes the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame special. If you look back at like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can't think of it. There was a band that broke up in the 80s, got back together for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They did like 4 or 5 songs, and that was like that's all they did. Oh God, I can see them. Oh God, the album covers with the damn fucking banana.
Oh, the Velvet Underground.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they did it, and it was fantastic. And I think that would
Yeah,
be
and
a great example of, and that would, I think, make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame special to show,
yeah,
hey, we're going to celebrate you. It's a one-time thing, and I think it would make more eyes on Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Realistically, the idea behind the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not, in 10, 15 years, I don't know if it's really going to be around anymore, because what we love, right, Brian? I mean, we love albums and music and singles. There is this great statistic that came out the other day that newer artists are more interested in a 20-second clip of a song that will get popular, not a whole album, not a whole song, just 20 seconds, so that it will get popular on, social media. So that's how it gets out. That's where artists are pushing for now for the younger generations. My son knows clips by 20 seconds on a whole song. And now, and it's going to change the whole dynamic of things. Talking Heads. Sorry.
I think
that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, love the Talking Heads.
Yes.
And they are in. So
yes, and and that was the band that got back together and did the whole thing. That was fantastic.
Yes, and that's what. And my heart, I want to see Soundgarden, Rage, and the White Stripes. If all 3 of them get in, then my little grunger heart is going to be super happy and excited to watch that show. But I'd love to see Cyndi Lauper and George Michael and people like that get in. I mean, hey, Sheryl Crow, put her in too. But
could you think how big it would be if they announced tomorrow it's going to be Sheryl Crow, Cyndi Lauper, Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden, the White Stripes, the Spinners, and Willie Nelson going in? It would be fucking. They could put that in a goddamn football arena, and it would be huge.
Yeah. I think it would be it'd be a great. Do you know? Are they doing the inductions in Cleveland this year?
I don't think they've announced it yet, because I actually looked the other day trying to see if the White Stripes got in, like what I could do to potentially try to get tickets, but I couldn't find anything on it.
Yeah, generally it's like last year they did it in California, which was the first time they've ever done it in California, and usually it's like every 3 years it'll get back to Cleveland.
Yeah,
so
they've done it in New York.
No, that would be they usually do it in New York. Then they do Cleveland every so often, and then last year they did LA for some reason.
Yeah,
but no, I think especially the White Stripes, Detroit, Cleveland, I think it would be amazing. But
be good stuff.
But hey, I think you've really turned me on the Spinners.
Dude, I'm telling you, the other day when I was like, who the fuck are the Spinners? And I started playing it, and I'm like, I know this. I know this.
Yeah,
I know that. I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen. And it was like, and then it's kind of like last episode when we were talking about like Sam Cooke, and I hadn't listened. Yeah. Dude,
you went down the Sam Cooke hole.
Oh, dude, and I have cooked so many dinners upstairs to like I'm like, hey Alexa, put on Sam Cooke, and I'm just like, fuck, I'm like, dude, I'm like, man, I'm digging this shit. Like I'm fucking hitting hard. The same thing happened with the Spinners. I am going down. I'm spinning down a rabbit hole of the Spinners for sure.
Hey, I think I'm going to do it this weekend. I think it sounds great.
Oh man, I love it. Well, listen, do you have, so I know you said something the other day, which I'm super excited about. I know you probably can't talk about it yet, but you are working on a poster for an upcoming concert, correct?
I am finally. Are you familiar with the band Spafford? They're like a jam band.
No, I'm not familiar with them.
So they're from, I think they're from Denver, but they are, so they're going on a tour for the spring. They're playing in Covington, Kentucky, which is right over the river from me. And I reached out to their management, and so we're doing a poster for the show in Covington. So I'm really excited because I haven't done a gig poster for quite a while. I am also putting together something, I think, fingers crossed, in honor of the White Stripes getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I'm hoping that I'll have some sort of an art print to honor the White Stripes, is what I'm hoping. So keep our fingers crossed, and if that happens, then we'll see something like that too.
Man, We are loving you, Brian. We are loving you.
Congratulations!
This soundboard is loaded up now. I have learned so much since the update, so I'm ready for anything. But no, I'm really happy for you,
Killing it.
Brian. It is.
Thanks.
It is so awesome. I'm so excited to hear you just killing it. It is fantastic. As a matter of fact, I saw yesterday. It was holy shit. It was 12 years ago yesterday that you made my Studio 424 graphic for.
Oh, cool.
12 years ago though.
Yeah.
Like that.
What happens to the time?
Holy crap! I was like, holy shit! I feel old. But it was.
Every day, man.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, listen.
Yeah.
If you're tuning in, probably later than before because this wasn't live on Facebook and it was only live on YouTube, so a lot of our audience probably can catch us up later. We are going to be live again next month. We're not sure what the list is going to be as we continue to rip apart other people's lists and give our opinion about it. But I'll give our own list on it because lists are irrelevant, and we find out that we like making lists of irrelevancy. So I don't know. I guess it's the best way to put it.
Yes.
But you can find out more about this show and all the other shows if you want to go to thetouringfanlive.com, and all of our information from this show and all the other shows are there. You can listen to this show as a podcast from all the past episodes or all future episodes. Just go to your favorite podcast little station, whether it's Deezer, whether it's YouTube, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, all those things. All you gotta do is search Touring Fan Live, and everything is bullet point and spread out by its own shows in there. So definitely check that out. Brian, you have any final words or fun sayings before the end of the show?
No, just keep your powder in your pants dry.
I dig it. And happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there.
You know what they say? Was it like Virginia's for lovers? I say another unnecessary list is for lovers.
I think it is.
Till next time, I'm Anthony.
Night,
That's
everybody.
Brian. This is another unnecessary list.